Welcome, Dr. Frank Ojadi, faculty member of the Lagos Business School and a technical expert in ports and logistics business. Good morning, sir. We thank you very much for finding time to be here with us on this public holiday. The National Assembly and the Honorable Minister of Works, Power, Works and Housing, Ambassador Fashola, over allegations of legislature materially altering some budgetary provisions for critical infrastructure projects. That's news out there on the street. What's your take on this?
Well, in a sense, we have quite some provisions for such changes taking place.
Alterations by members of the National Assembly.
Yeah, but then it's something that has to be done in relation to those who actually put up the budget in the first place. There is nothing wrong in the both of them sitting down together and discussing it. But I think what the Minister for Power is talking about is simply that these are not issues that came up at the time they had the defense of this budget. So therefore, it's not really things that they were surprised to have seen those alterations coming in at the time they did. And what it means is simply that there's still a gap there in terms of how cohesive the executive and the National Assembly are really working together to get this going. But I think it's more of human issues, and it's something that hopefully should be resolved as quickly as they can.
When budgets proposals sent to any National Assembly,
that's right,
the time that the National Assembly is discussing it, whether you call it a parliament or whatever system of government, as long as it's not military, aren't those discussions ought to be public, as it were, so that in case a particular MDA would have to say, hold on a second, folks, that's not what is in that document. This was what I had in that document. Can we discuss it? Shouldn't that be the process?
Well, that's exactly the point I'm making. The process should be transparent and open, so everybody would have an issue, get to know what is being discussed, what is being raised, and so on. And as yet, it hasn't really happened the way it is. And
because the budget has been signed now, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's been signed, and we're going back to unbundling the same budget and start looking at the projects and the numbers.
Yeah, that's very correct. Now, what is very important in this whole thing is simply that the budget is not just made for the purpose of making budget. It is actually made to be able to get this country moving forward. In the end, the infrastructural issues, which I think Fashola is very much concerned about and looking at very closely. It's very important to business development and also the creation of jobs and opportunities and what have you in this space. So I think it's something of interest for him to pay particular attention to this kind of inclusions. I don't want to get into the area of the borehole issues and so on, because those are, in my view, things that should be handled at the constituency levels. What we're looking at here are kind of the infrastructural components that really impact on the country and encourage investments and development and productivity.
And those roads like Lagos-Ibadan, just the one in front of us here, is very critical.
Very, very critical.
For road transportation, logistics.
That's right. If you look at the National Integrated Master Plan. Infrastructure Plan that was put up in 2014, you will notice that power constitutes close to about 33% of that, and then transport constitutes, I think, 28% or so. So the both of them,
almost 60.
25%, come up to 58 to 60%. So just those two critical areas of the economy actually constitute over half of the entire plan. So that shows clearly how critical and important they are. And it also shows one thing, that we are still at the fundamental stage. We haven't quite come of age in terms of looking at getting these things done very quickly.
So it's proper. It's proper for the minister, therefore, to cry foul when he's seen that his budget, the proposal is being materially altered.
Yeah, but it's also important that they get together and work this out, because I think that's really the focus. If it won't pay the nation, neither will it pay even the investors coming in to begin to see this kind of division. It's something that they should all close the ranks and get down to the table very quickly and discuss these issues and sort them out. I believe very strongly that is something that can happen, because we all have what I call reasonable gentlemen in both. It doesn't really call for name. It doesn't really ask for name calling at all. So they should work together to get that going.
Let's get down to Lagos State. Look at Lagos. We just talked about Lagos Ibadan, a major economic epicenter for the country, very strategic by location for West Africa trade and for global trade via the oceans. So Lagos is very key. But if you look at the roads, Lagos Ibadan for one, the one that goes through Sangwater, Oshodi, all the way to Ogun State and all that. They have the Badagry axis. They have another one through Ikorodu. So there are about 4 major roads that Lagos really needs to take care of.
Okay. Now, one thing is clear about this. You know, the intercity or interstate roads, they constitute the bulk of the roads that are actually under the federal concern. There are about 9% of that if you go by the current report of about 197,000 kilometers constituting the bulk of the Nigerian roads. Then, of course, 9% of that goes to the federal concern, and then, of course, about 18% goes to the state, and that has to deal with the interstate, within the state roads and stuff like that. But the rest then goes to the local government. But what is important here is that these are roads that are linked to different states, and therefore, to a reasonable extent, a good percentage of them come under the federal concern. Now, added to that is the fact that based on the federal character provisions in our constitution, certain federal projects and could be cited in different parts of the country. And when a federal government cites a project, for instance, take the port as an example, you don't just cite it. When you cite it there, then you must also be responsible for what? For the access road to these places. Same thing happens. Same thing can also be looked at from the viewpoint of the International Airport Road. So when you have that, then you have some federal concerns within the state taking care of certain roads.
That's an issue. For Lagos?